This is, I think, the very last time talk of the semester, so congratulate yourselves on a semester well done. Thank you for your participation. Today we're going to have a Times talk. It's called Finding a Safe Space. It will be presented by Dr. Keegan Nichols and her GA, Holly Weiss. So, enjoy.
Right? And so we're all really glad that you're here. Holly and I, this is one of our biggest passions, is finding safe space, not only for faculty and staff, but also our students and our student employees, and how do we do that? And so hopefully today, our hope is to give you some tools on how you can help foster a safe environment for campus, the relevance of gender-based violence in our community, and Holly is kind of the leading expert, I would say, in this, and then how to seek resources if you know someone is a victim. And so really it's about helping other people as well. Sound good? We want this to be interactive, so make sure you ask questions to Holly, because I know she can answer them.
Okay, so what do we mean when we say gender-based violence? Because it's several different things that term represents. So the first one is stalking, and this is a course of unwelcome conduct directed at a specific person, and this can include texting, obsessive texting, cyber stalking, any form of unwanted attention. The next is sexual assault, so any type of sexual conduct or behavior that occurs without the consent of the recipient. Dating violence is controlling, abusive, or aggressive behavior in a relationship, and this is in same-sex relationships as well, and it includes verbal abuse. And then rape and sexual harassment are also 2 points under gender-based violence.
I think one of the things that we don't talk a lot about is the LGBTQ community and what does that look like in the community. And so I think that's something that Holly and I hope to do better at next year. But we can also use your help. So if that's something you're passionate about, let us know. I'm going to talk about the fade.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of times people say, well, gender-based violence really isn't an issue, so we're going to share some statistics with you to help reinforce that this is happening on our campuses. On the left, this is, I don't know if any of you are aware of the app called Fade, where you can post pictures and quotes and lots of things like that anonymously if you would like. And it says, roses are red, violets are blue, we're having sex tonight because I'm stronger than you. This post was actually on Fort Hayes' Fade website. So there are students on your campus who think that this is appropriate things to say about their peers. Nationally, 20% of college women will be victims of sexual assault and about 6% of undergraduate men. And then 1 in 5 women in the U.S. is sexually assaulted in college. And the most important part about this statistic is it's mostly during their freshman or sophomore year when the students are the most naive and more likely to be assaulted. 1 in 3 victims are first-year students. And then 60% of sexual assaults go unreported. So although these top 3 statistics are alarming, we're not really sure what the numbers are since a lot of them go unreported because students don't feel safe on their campus to report.
So we're talking about cultural norms. Why don't we say anything? What is the cultural norm? We don't believe that these issues are really a problem on campus. And so sometimes we will even hear of, why are you even looking into that case? It's not really a big deal here. It's Hays, Kansas. And so what is the normal thing in an area? And these things are happening, and they are happening on campus. And we want to make sure that we can provide students that safe space. What else did you want to say about cultural norms?
So it's reasons why we don't interview. A lot of times we don't think it's our responsibility because somebody else will say something for us or they'll handle it, like police or people of authority will handle it, so why should I say anything and help someone? And then a lot of times we don't interfere with sexual harassment or inappropriate language because we think everybody else thinks it's okay, so why should we say anything? Because that's what everyone else thinks is appropriate to say. So if you hear someone making fun of another person based on gender, and you don't say anything because everybody else is laughing, then it's part of that pluralistic ignorance.
One of the things that we want to go back real fast and say too is it's really a difficult situation, it's a difficult topic to talk about. And so how many of us want to say those kinds of words? Like when you have to say, he hit me, she penetrated, those are words that are really difficult to say. And so when we talk about it, how do we get past the difficult part and make sure that people feel comfortable when you're in that situation? I think that's another big reason people don't want to report. So what can you do? So we think the best thing you can do is be a bystander. And so if you hear a language like the roses are red, I think if you hear someone, the quote on fade, if you hear that, stand up and say, that's not appropriate, that's not okay. If you hear language of, I'm gonna get wasted and beat up somebody, or you wanna intervene, you wanna have that conversation. There's 4 basic steps. The first thing is just to check in. So I'm gonna go ask Holly, like, are you doing okay? Gonna say, no, I need help. And then you're gonna say what this other person's doing is not okay. So slipping something in someone's drink, if you see that, telling them that's not okay behavior. Get involved. If you can say cause a distraction, if you can go get someone else who can help. If you're at a bar or a club or something, you can go up and say cause a distraction, go talk to one of the bouncers and make sure that the person gets home safely. And then get help. Make sure that you find somebody. There are more people, I think, who want to help. They just don't know what to do, or they haven't been asked. And I think that's really the big part to remember, too. Anything to add to that?
So other ways that we can create a safe space, perhaps you weren't there to step in and do something about the situation, but somebody confides in you. We want to make sure that you're prepared for how to appropriately react to those, so that way you don't scare somebody from sharing their story. So a couple of do's, make sure you're listening and giving them the time to share their story with them. Try to remain calm. What may be said to you might be unsettling, but remain calm for the victim because they're going to need your support. So be supportive with whatever decision they choose to make. A lot of times the most traumatic part is that they didn't have control of the situation, or they feel like they've lost control of a situation. So make sure that you're letting their decisions be on their own, and then ask before you take any action. They may not want to go to the hospital, they may not want to get police involved, so make sure that you're always asking before you try to make what you believe is a helpful decision for them. Some don'ts, depending on your role on campus as a student or an employee, don't ever promise confidentiality that you can't tell somebody about it. This is more towards faculty and staff, so make sure you know what's obligated from you under university policy. Don't ever force a victim to do anything that they don't want to do, so don't continually push that they go to the health center. And then never blame a victim. Don't ask questions like, what were you wearing, how much you had to drink, because in any situation, whether it's verbal or physical abuse, the victim is never to blame.
I think it's important to remember that you're not the investigator. You don't have to ask the victim questions. All you have to do is just sit there and listen and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. I think sometimes people feel the need to ask lots of questions because they want to be supportive, and whereas really the best thing you can do is just sit back and just listen to what they have to say and then direct them to the right resources, whether it be, I think we're going to talk about that next,
Yep.
The Student Health Center, which is fabulous, which is a confidential place. So there's 2 places that students can report. Or faculty and staff. If you want to do it completely confidential and don't want an investigation, the Student Health Center is where they can go get the medical help that they need, the Kelly Center, which has the free counseling, and then we have options on campus, and they actually have an office on our campus located down in the Student Health Center so that students can get help there as well. And then non-confidential, if the student wants to report and wants an investigation to take place, our campus police, our local police, Title IX coordinator, who's fabulous, that's me, and the residence life staff are non-confidential reporters.
Do you have a sense for, I would assume it's very, very, very high, that somehow alcohol is involved?
Yes, most of the time, in incidents that I have worked with, alcohol has been involved, but I think it's a slippery slope to be discussed sometimes when you talk about it, because you also don't want to get into the blaming thing of,
Sure,
well, you were
sure.
drinking
Right.
in that situation. But yeah, alcohol's never really a great thing.
No, I know. Yeah.
So how do you create a safe space on our campus? Fort Hays does a really great job at creating programs that help address these issues and get students to talk about it, which makes them more comfortable to discuss it with their peers. So we do a lot of campus programming. We do the Red Flag campaign, which is bystander intervention, Rain Day to help raise awareness and ask students to take a pledge to help end sexual assault, the self-defense workshop. Although most sexual assaults are not caused by the man hiding in the bushes, it's actually by somebody you know. We do promote the self-defense workshop. It's a free workshop for students, which is rare for most universities, to help prepare you if you did need to know those skills. Walk a Mile, which is actually next Monday at 6 p.m. in the Memorial Union, helps raise awareness about gender-based violence and then also supports 2 of our local groups here in Hayes to raise funds for victims. And then Show Your Strength is a program put on by Dr. Kirk Brungard talking about gender roles in society and how men can help be allies in ending gender-based violence. We also have a lot of community involvement. So we have Janice campaigns here in the Hayes community, as well as Options, which are 2 local resources that we encourage people seek. And then on our campus, we took the initiative to do the Campus Safe Initiative, which was created to help address gender-based violence on our campus, which Dr. Nichols will talk more about.
So when I started here back in 2013, the Brungards made a meeting with me. I think it was like the first week I was here, and they said, we really want to address gender-based violence on campus. What can we do together? We know you're going to be the Title IX coordinator, let's visit. So we decided we would create this Campus Safe Initiative, having discussions about gender-based violence on campus, and what would that look like. And so what people needed to be around the table so that we could have some good discussions. And it happened that so many people wanted to be on our committee, we ended up developing a small task force that reviews policies and procedures, looks at programmatic models, developing a strategic plan for educational programs for Title IX, protocols, really looking at the holistic picture. And then we also have a larger task force made up of faculty, staff, and off-campus people as constituents, such as the Hayes Police Department, the Hayes Med Center, and a lot of people off campus who really say, you know what, we want to help and we want to be engaged with the campus. And so we meet quarterly with the larger task force to talk about what are the issues, what are the trends, what are we seeing, and how can we collaborate to make a safer environment for our campus.
So now we're going to open it up for questions, help answer some thoughts that maybe you have on Title IX, sexual assault on college campuses, or if you're seeking resources or just have questions about what's being done on our campus.
Go ahead.
So sexual assault and sexual harassment is basically the same thing? I mean not the same thing, but as far as where they go for help in terms of that?
Yeah, so they go for help with either to the student health center if they wanted help, or the counseling center if they want to keep kept confidential, or if they want it to be investigated, they would come through either the Title IX coordinator, me, or the University Police Department.
Now, I mean, can they go to you but say, you know, I just want to report it, but I mean, I guess I want to give them, if they say, well, what does that mean? What will they do with this information? Will everybody know? What can we tell the students if they chose to go to you instead of over to the Kelly Center?
If they're really still debating whether or not they want to report this or not and want an investigation, I think the best thing to do is go to the Kelly Center, because they're well versed on our policies and our procedures, and then they can help talk the student or the employee through the situation. So what happens during an investigation is that it's reported to me. I take a report on that, and then I call in the alleged perpetrator, and I have a discussion with that person and say, look, you've been alleged of this behavior. Let's talk about this, and an investigation is going to occur. And it stays between us, the victim, the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, and then any witnesses that are brought forward. So it really stays pretty small, but I really think that victims should go to the Kelly Center first just to talk it through with them, because I think it's so hard to decide what you want to do, and we don't want to pressure students or faculty and staff to do something before they're ready.
It seems so hard to get them to go over there, period, and then it just, I don't know which place they'd go easier.
Yeah, and if they were more likely to come over to me, like I bring them over, and we take our process slow. If the student needs, or the employee needs to go slower, then we take it slow until we do it. It really depends on the situation.
I think just from a student's perspective, it's scary to want to go to the Kelly Center, but if they had the support, maybe it's taking the extra step to walk with them to the Kelly Center, or call the Kelly Center to set up that appointment with them, because they're just needing support, so they're more likely to want to do it if you say, let me go through this process with you. I think that would help with maybe the hesitation to seek help.
Good question. Yeah, go ahead.
I was sitting here listening, and I kept thinking to myself, what can the library do, to help? We're open a lot, substantially later hours than a lot of other businesses. One thing I'd like to see happen perhaps is some training for our student workers and our staff, so that we know the right resources to direct people to should we come in contact with a situation like that. Because we have a lot of students that are in here till very, very late at night. We've had student employees that have had issues, so that's something that I'd like to to maybe get involved in the fall.
Yeah, bring us over. We'd be happy to come over and do a presentation.
If it's after hours, you don't feel like, well, we gotta wait till morning to go to the Kelly Center. But yet, if you go to the police, it's reported. So what can you do after hours,
That's a good question.
you know, that
There's-
they can feel comfortable with?
There is a Kelly Center on-call phone number listed on the website, and they can call that number, and Options also has some late night opportunities for students or employees to call. But if we come over, we can talk about that with people, because more than likely, you are the people, since you're here, students
Right.
trust you. I can tell, like, if you came to this kind of presentation, it's because you care, and it's because students probably trust you, and they're gonna come to you with situations. And so if we can help you with that and help you talk through situations, call us. We're happy to do that.
That's one more since the question.
So what if they've been victimized by a friend or somebody that they know and then don't feel comfortable around, but they don't want to report that person because it is someone that they considered a friend or, I guess, someone they trusted?
So if they report it to the health center, or if they report it to the Kelly Center on campus, or the police department, depending on how they want to report. So if you're saying they don't want to report, they don't want anyone to know, they don't want me to know, because they don't want an investigation to occur, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
If they report it to the Kelly Center or to the health center, then they will work with the student, and they will work with me on it confidentially to figure out how can we either help students get a safer place to live, how can we help students maybe rearrange class schedules. We will work with the student until they feel comfortable reporting. That's definitely the best thing to do, is get the student safe, and then we'll worry about everything else later.
And you'll help them even if they don't report.
Yes, we will help them figure that out.
So I wanted to make sure I understand what this is, that the student talks to their healthcare provider, Kelly Center, or Keegan Center, or healthcare provider. There's no legal obligation to take that further at that point. But if that student then reports to you or to somebody official at the university, is there a point where the student can say, wait a second, no, I don't want to go any further? Is that an option at that point?
The law is a little tricky, so I want to clarify first.
Can you, I actually couldn't hear
Yeah.
exactly what he said.
So his question is, if they report to the Kelly Center or to the health center, is there a legal obligation for them to report further? Names, no, but they are obligated to report numbers, because each year I have to fill out a report to the government that says this is how many sexual assaults we've had on campus. I may not know necessarily their names, but I may have numbers from the Kelly Center and from the health center, just so we have an accurate picture of our campus and where we are on the subject. The other piece of that is if they want to report to me and then they say, you know what, I don't want to report anymore. Is that the second part of the question? The law's a little gray of, if they report to me and I find out about it, I have to do an investigation. Now, how far that investigation goes depends on how much information I get from the victim. And so the victim can say, you know what, I'm just done. Then we take a break and we take it more slowly. But I am obligated to make sure that our campus is safe and to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
And I could be wrong, so just correct me if I am, but can you maybe clarify for him, your investigation is still separate from like a Hayes PD type
Yes,
investigation,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I probably should have said that, yeah. So my investigation is different than the law enforcement. So if a student decides to report to me but not law enforcement, they do not have to do that. It's highly encouraged, but it's not mandated. If they report to the police and don't want to report to me, that's okay too. It's not mandated, it's highly encouraged on that. And there's two separate processes. So you can be found guilty in the court of law and responsible or not responsible with me. It gets a little tricky.
Do you have any suggestions for maybe facilitating conversation about accountability among, like, specifically the male population who may not come to programs like this? Does that question make sense?
So you're asking me, how can we help encourage men to have conversations?
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay. You know, I think we're actually trying a lot more. Dr. Brungart is actually leading this. It's hard for me to have conversations man to man. It's just not something I can relate to. But I do think it's an important conversation to have. And so we are encouraging young men to step up and to say, look, I do not tolerate this behavior, and how can we work together? And I know Dr. Brungart, because he is a man, is leading the Campus Men's Network, and he's actually going to try next Monday to get men to sign a pledge that says, we do not stand for violence. And hope that it trends, and hope that men will sign on to this. They'll get their t-shirt and it'll keep building. There's also a hope that there's like a men's club on campus and he's really leading that initiative. So I think if you have interest, there is an interest on campus. I think it's just organizing that voice. And I think you have some great men in the graduate student program to help.
If you're interested in that, you can come talk to me afterwards. I work as assistant, so.
Yes.
How many male victims come to you?
Have come to me.
Mhm.
I've never had a male victim come forward to me.
Obviously, that is something that is going on. What would make it, what could we do to maybe make it more easy for maybe a male victim to speak up? I know it's hard for any male to say that this is happening, but I mean, jealousy, stalking, it happens to males as well. It's happened to me. I've had to go talk to people about it. Fortunately, not here in Hayes, but what would make it easier, you think? I know Kurt does a lot, but can you give examples of what he's doing or something?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I should rephrase that. I've never had a sexual assault from a male come forward, but I have had stalking issues come forward of males reporting. So that's a positive that some men are coming in. You know, I think that Holly and I have been having these discussions about not only how do we address the men's group, but the LGBT community as well. And so how do we do that? And so we talked about, do we go to the student organizations? Do we go to the clubs? Do we go to IFC and have discussions? And I think it stems from more education about we're here for you and keeping an open environment. I also think it comes from programs like this where you can help encourage other men to say, because you're going to know people who talk about it, and to say, you know, you should report, something will be done about it. And I think that's really important. I know that next year we're planning on going to some more of the groups to try to get our word out, and I think the education piece is going to be the most important thing to do. Not a solid answer, but it's a start.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are these issues like discussed in the freshman orientation classes too?
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, so Holly took the initiative last year with Dr. Christy Brungart, and they actually did presentations for all freshman students, and this is the first campus, I think, in Kansas?
Janice Campaign presented it at Dartmouth College at a summit that talks about gender-based violence on college campuses, and we were the only university, at least that had the opportunity to speak to every freshman in the incoming classes. So, and we're doing that again next year over a 4-day period.
And we're actually going to have 2 class periods with the students, so each student will get 2 hours, incoming students. We also are addressing it more in our orientation programs. We're also looking at training our RAs and our orientation leaders differently this year, and we're getting into some of the student employee training who will let us in. So we keep knocking on doors, and hopefully more and more people will let us into different trainings that they have. Good question.
Is there signs that you can see from somebody that's presenting that they might have a situation that they don't still want to bring forward?
That's a good question.
Like red flags?
Yeah, red flags.
I mean, there are several red flags. Obviously, there could be the physical features of somebody's been a victim of abuse, but I would say isolation, controlling behaviors that you recognize, like they can't do certain things based on their partner. Or, I mean, they might just openly complain to you about something and it may not seem serious, but is more serious than they come off. So if you ask questions, you could find out that it's a lot more verbal abuse than they're hinting at.
You know somebody who's maybe not going to as many club meetings as they used to, or if they're not coming around as much to go out with you, it's probably a sign that something's going on. And it may not be this, but maybe it's something else.
Okay.
Is that something that's addressed with students who are having academic difficulties that are presenting maybe to student affairs where their academics are suffering? Is that a question that's brought up? I mean, a lot of times if you even go to your doctor for your physical, one of the questions they ask you is just, is this a problem in your life? Is that a question that comes up in student affairs? Is it something, maybe a different way of looking at it, of identifying?
Yeah, so we don't deal directly if a student comes in. So I know that Patty, like we were talking about through the academic reinstatement. Yeah, you know, I don't know if that's something they're doing. I think that's a great thing that maybe we should think about and talk to them about. I know they have questions that they ask. I don't know if that's specifically a question though.
Just the sentence came to me that it could be another way of identifying a student with an issue that their academics may slide.
Right, that's a good point.
I think that's another reason why we emphasize it to faculty to be more educated on it, because they might have a student failing a class and not coming to class because they're dealing with other issues. So it's a matter of faculty being aware that this could be a problem in that student's life.
To answer your question, I work with Patty Griffin in the Academic Advising Office, and I know that whenever they have to fill out an application to be reinstated, and it does ask them about what's going on with them or why they're failing. Whether they tell us that's the issue or not is up to them. But we do ask the question about, what's kind of going on, why is this happening? So.
I think you need more specific asking the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, it might be
Yeah.
a specific question
Yeah.
that might get the answer, or it might.
I know Student Health does that now. They have to ask that question.
Is Fort Hays typical of the problems across universities our size? Or are we special? Are we less likely to have problems? Or we're no different than anyone else?
I don't think any of us are immune from problems, and I think that's just because we're located in Hays, fantastic, loving, like wonderful, great community. Like problems still happen, and so I think our issue is until we do more education, I'm not sure what our reporting rate is. If it is completely accurate, I just know like we report what we receive, but I'm not sure that's an accurate picture of campus. And so I think until we do this education over the next couple of years, we won't know what the accurate picture is at Fort Hays. I do think that we're doing a better job of education. We're doing more presentations. We're doing more active promotion of this. So hopefully we can get a better picture of what Fort Hays looks like. More people are willing to report these issues. It's important to us to be able to say to you, this is what our campus looks like and how can we fight this together.
I imagine that's something that parents are curious about when they come, how safe is your campus? And, when I send my son or daughter to you, are they going to come back having experienced something that isn't what college is supposed to be like?
Yeah, and I think we tell them this is what the picture looks like online, and we expect our numbers to go up in the next few years because we are doing more education and promotion of this. So we do expect that, and then we're hoping that it either levels out or goes down because of this education and training that we're doing.
It's more of a comment. I know it'd be nice if there were more faculty because they may not know, because when I first came, it was in the handbook to go to student affairs if something happened. So now I can see it's been kind of fine-tuned, confidential versus non-confidential. And I don't know that I was aware before I came here the differences between that. And I bet a lot of faculty are not aware of that.
We actually have a handbook that we developed, and we didn't bring it over with us because I ran from another meeting over here. But we have some Title IX handbooks that talk you through the situation, and it talks you through how to report that we've given to certain departments, and we're happy to give those to faculty departments as well. And we've done, how many presentations have we done for faculty? A couple.
Yeah.
We've been invited into some departments, so I think the more the word gets out and the more people invite us in, I think the more the word will spread, and we can use you as advocates.
There's also a Title IX consultant coming to campus tomorrow.
Yes.
Who's doing a faculty staff training session that'll answer questions about confidential and non-confidential and how to address the issues of Title IX and make sure you're
chairs as
compliant.
well. Chairs need that too.
Have you thought about developing an online module that would be open for maybe employees and faculty staff, and then maybe when a whole department has done it, maybe they have stickers on their doors or something that say, we're a safe place, and talks about what that is?
Holly is actually working on something like that, so.
Well, I figured somebody had to be.
She is, she's all over it. There's actually a module for new faculty and staff to take it, but it also, it's been a couple of years since some people have taken it, so how do we help with some of this continuous education?
Well, I know when we took the suicide prevention training last year, I was just starting to see similarities there. So.
Yeah.
Great.
I wish we could just slip it incognito, but they haven't caught on yet. Hopefully they will one day. It's a moneymaker for any of you who want to do that. Any other good questions?
You're doing wonderful work. I mean, I came here 5 years ago, and it was very confusing to figure out where to go, and it's really gotten a lot better. Do you ever have discussions about lighting on campus and things like that?
Yes, Student Government Association actually does a tour of campus, and they do a phenomenal job. And they walk around and they talk about the lighting on campus and what needs to improve, and then they submit a report to Ed Howell and to facilities, and then they follow up. They're kind of on top of it.
Great.
Yeah.
I know a big fear of stepping in whenever there's a heated conversation or a heated debate going in between two in a relationship, or anybody for that matter. It can feel unsafe to step in. What do you say is the safest way to step in and kind of diffuse that situation?
You're never going to do yourself any good if you're harmed as well. So you want to make sure, if you think that there's a time or a place that you feel unsafe, you just want to call the police. And our police respond in Hayes. They're amazing. And so our university police, they are amazing with their response time. So either get some other people to help you in that situation if you're in a crowded place, or step back and call the police, because you don't ever want to put yourself in a situation, because you're not going to be any help to anybody.
Do you know if statistically, I know it would help the situation then and there, but later on, does that cause problems? I mean, I know that's probably up to the people who are in the relationship, but is there repercussions by somebody who just kind of steps in and then later on that night they're together alone? I mean, does that happen often that you know of, or?
Well, if it happens on campus, retaliation falls under Title IX as well. And if someone retaliates based on a behavior, they could actually be in more trouble, up to suspension or expulsion from school. So that's a big deal. In terms of like the state or the local area, I don't know any statistics on that to tell you. I know that our police do a great job of making sure that the situation is diffused, and they give people resources that they need, whether it be options or other resources, to make sure they get the help that they need.
Good.
We have a well-trained police force. I think that they're, at least in the city of Hayes, I know that they work with options lately, doing some training.
I know we've talked about this before, but has there been any progress made or any ideas for us? We have students leaving here sometimes really late at night, especially before finals and such, and not feeling safe walking. And because of the time we close at 2 in the morning, it's very difficult to get police to be able to come and do that. Have we ever brainstormed ideas for who might be able to help with that?
Yeah, we've discussed with like the Interfraternity Council of setting up like walkers to help walk students back to their
And they'd be trained, right? So
halls.
it wouldn't just be any fraternity guy that we call. That, I mean, I don't mean to, I'm in the grade system myself, so I'm not.
No, that's a shared
know.
concern, and there's also been discussion of asking like the Criminal Justice Club to do it, because they're a little more aware of these types of issues. So it's just a matter of finding the correct people to partner and collaborate with.
Well, I'm
but
glad it's a discussion.
there is current discussion on the larger task force of
Right.
how to go about providing that to students in need.
I don't think there's any solutions though right now.
No.
We found.
It's difficult. There's holes in everything, because I know we've tried as well.
Call UPD and just have to wait until somebody can come pick you up.
Yeah, but where do you go when the library's closed then into?
Yes, stay in
If
a
that's-
well-lit area until someone arrives.
Yeah.
Other questions? I know Holly and I really appreciate you coming, because this is really important. This is something that we deal with on a daily basis, and we talk about, and we try to have all these conversations, and we want people to be excited about it like we are. And we know the Brungarts are on board. If you have interest in this topic and you want to join our team, we will gladly put you to work. We have lots of tasks that we want to get done. If you have ideas and you want to let us know, or things that people are saying out in the community, please let us know, because we want to make sure that we're hearing all the voices around the community. Anything else you have to add?
Thanks for coming.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
So much, Holly and Keegan. We definitely really appreciate this conversation, and I'm glad that we had the chance to sort of talk about these issues, because they're right, they're very pressing, and I'm so glad that all of you have shown so much interest. In front of you, you guys will notice a little sheet of paper. It's kind of long. On one side, there are some. It's Civic Engagement Week, which is a part of like why we held this time talk this week. We'll be doing the Center for Civic Leadership will be doing things throughout the rest of this week to sort of promote civic engagement. What you guys did here today, coming and having this discussion and sort of working on this discourse, is in fact an example of civic engagement. We understand how beneficial that can be to our community. There's a little survey, and there's all sorts of different ways you can be civically involved. So just sort of be looking for the different stuff we'll be doing. There'll be some Earth Day stuff on the quad tomorrow, and I'm sure that's going to be really fun. So if you guys have the opportunity to stop by, then we'd definitely love you to. Thanks again, guys, for your time talk, and thank you again for participating.
No.